It's 2024. It's time for a war.
Hello, dear viewers. It is I, Brendon, once again coming at you because I believe we have some business to discuss. Some bass guitar business. But first, if you would do some or all of what's on the screen right now, I would greatly appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's get into this. We're looking at Time for a War again. That is the new Repo Man song that is streaming on all DSPs. And if you would go stream that, I would also greatly appreciate that. So thanks in advance. Anyway, if you look at the mixer here, you can see I don't have many channels. That is because I've hidden most of the channels to make this a little easier to understand. And if I roll the track, you can hear it's all there.
It's about time for a war. If we don't do something.
Okay, so if you're looking at these yellow channels, that's perfect because that's what I want you looking at. This is my bass guitar stuff. And if I roll this, you can hear the bass guitar by itself. And I do think that sounds pretty good. I mean, it made it to the final mix, after all. But if you watch my mix breakdown video, you know that after I got done mixing the song, I kind of found a better way to do the bass. If we look at this more closely, we can see that I've got a bass bus. So all of the bass information is going through that. I've got, you can see high bass, and this has all the high stuff. And then I've got a sub channel, and I'm pretty sure that's fairly self-explanatory what that is. And then I've got all these plugins. I've got a splitter. In the PA world or the hi-fi world, we would call that a crossover. Basically, it's sending all the low information to the sub channel and sending all the high information to, well, or I should say, keeping all the high information on this channel, the high bass channel. And then I've got an equalizer. Okay, that's an amp sim. And then I've got a compressor. And then on the sub channel, I've got another compressor and even a limiter. Then all that goes through the bus, and there's a channel strip, and then this volume adjustment, which isn't doing a volume adjustment, it's actually doing kind of a hidden function in that it's mixing the bass and the high bass, or the sub and the high bass back together again. Anyway, if we look at the sub channel, we can see that I've had to reverse the phase on this channel. Because in doing all of this craziness, I actually created a phase coherent problem. So reversing the phase fixed that. The point to all this, it's really complicated. It's just a whole bunch of stuff, not to mention the fact that I've caused a phase problem. And on top of all that, all of these plugins, with the exception of the splitter and ZL equalizer, are all paid plugins. So like I said in the mix breakdown video, I'm going to show you an easier way to do this. And I'm also going to show you how to do it with free plugins. So let's get into that. I'm just going to mute this old bass thing. And I'm going to attract your attention to these green channels. I'm going to go up to the arrange window here, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to get rid of the mixer for a minute. Okay, so you can see we have our same green channels here. And I don't have any bass information, so let's make that happen. I'm going to copy what I had on the yellow channels down to this channel I have labeled raw bass. I'm going to bring the mixer back and you can see that here, raw bass. And if I solo that, you can hear it. So that's the bass I just recorded straight in to my DAW, which is Reaper. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a new ZL equalizer. This is a free equalizer, by the way. It is linked in the description. And I'm going to do a low shelf, and that is at about 250 hertz, and that's going to sound crazy to some of you, but I want to clarify what this is doing. Actually, I need to turn this on. I want to clarify what this is doing. So when I play bass, I predominantly play with my fingers. That's not to say I never play with a pick. It does happen. For instance, on Sins of the Father, I played with a pick in the verse. You can go listen to that if you want. Now, when you play with your fingers, it adds a lot of kind of muck, you know, because you don't have that. It's hard to say. It's not adding muck, but you don't just have that really positive attack on the strings of the pick, and it has a tendency to sound a little muddy. So what I'm doing with this low shelf, I'm dumping a lot, like 9 dB, and I'm doing it, as I stated, at like 250 hertz. And what that's doing is taking away all of the kind of the mud that comes from playing with your fingers. Now, if you want to replicate this at home, as usual, this is not a tutorial. I'm just showing you my new way to mix bass. But if you want to try this at home and you're a pick player, you don't have to do this step. If you're a pick player on the bass, you can just completely skip this EQ. You should still go get the EQ, though, because it's free, and it's linked in the description. Next thing I'm going to do is use another free plugin called TL Bass Drive. It's linked in the description. And again, this is soloed. I'm going to roll it, and you can hear what this is doing if I turn it on. So you can see that's adding quite a bit of distortion. If I turn up the blend, we'll get even more. Anyway, I think that's a little much. So we're going to go back to kind of where I was. So I'm using this much like I would use an amp sim. This is making it sound like the bass is going into an amp. And I'm recording that. Next up, we've got Tokyo Dawn Records Molotov, which is a free compressor. And guess what? It's linked in the description. And I'm using a medium fast attack, a medium fast release, and I'm going to set my threshold so I'm getting between 2 and 3 dB of gain reduction. I really don't want to murder this because we're going to add more compression later. Now, my ratio is 4:1, and the nice thing about Molotov is that we actually have a mix fader. So if we were really killing this thing, like that, we could actually turn the dry mix up, and that would bring in some of the uncompressed bass. So that's an option there if you need that. But I'm just going to stick with regular old. Regular old insert style compression, and I just want to make sure I'm gain matched here real quick. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So if I roll this and you hear it all by itself, that's already sounding pretty good, but I still want to do the high bass and the sub thing. So I am now at a fork in the road where I could just route the signal from this channel to these other two channels. But I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to go ahead and print this. So if I get rid of the mixer, you can see we now have our printed stem. And I'm just going to move that down to the high bass. And then I'm going to copy it to the sub channel. And I am going to remove that track. And if I bring the mixer back up, you can see that this old raw bass track is muted. And I'm just going to turn off these plugins. I'm going to bypass them, I should say, so they're not using CPU processing. And then we're going to look at what's going on here. Okay, so the first thing on the high bass channel, let's solo that. I'm going to use a ZL equalizer again. On this ZL EQ, which again is a free EQ, linked in the description, go get it. I'm adding a high pass filter. And what's significant about that is a high pass filter will always cause a phase problem. The same phase problem, in fact, that we had over on my other bass setup in the yellow channels. So to combat that, we're going to go up here to the General tab, and we're going to choose linear phase. Generally speaking, you'll be using minimum phase. But in this case, we want linear phase because it doesn't do what high-pass filters usually do, which is flip the phase. In some cases, 180 degrees, and in some cases, not quite 180 degrees. So the other thing that you need to know about that is that linear phase equalization uses more CPU processing. So if you're going to put ZLEQ on a bunch of your tracks, make sure this is set to minimum phase. Unless you're in a situation like this where you're trying to prevent a phase problem, in which case you'll use a linear phase setting. So just a rule of thumb. Minimum phase on most things, linear phase in this case, or any case where you're trying to prevent phase coherence problems. Now, all this talk of phase might be kind of confusing if you're a beginner, so I've made a companion video that is linked in the description where I talk about phase. I don't really want to get too deep into it in this video because it's going to take forever. Just understand that a phase problem is not what we want, and that's why we're using linear phase. Okay, so high pass filter at 250 hertz. Then over on the sub channel, we're using another ZL equalizer, this time with a low pass filter, once again at 250 hertz. And we're using the linear phase setting on this EQ as well. Going back to the high bass channel, we're using another Molitok. This time we're using a slower attack setting. And the reason for that is that will preserve our fingers plucking the strings or your pick plucking the strings. This is the high bass, so we want that. And if I roll this, you can hear just the high bass. So you can see I adjusted the threshold, so I'm only getting maybe 2 dB of gain reduction. We don't want to compress the hell out of the high bass because we want to retain the dynamics so that we've got the transients on our, on our picking. The low bass also has another Molitok, and it is again using a medium fast attack and a medium fast release. We're going to go for more compression on this one, right? So if I roll this, we're going for almost 6 dB. The reason for that, the bass player starts playing really high. We don't want the bottom to fall out of the bass. Having a higher compression setting on the sub will prevent that bottom falling out thing from happening. So that's what we want. And all of that together sounds like this. Which I think sounds pretty good. And if we listen to it in the track, again, I think that sounds pretty good. If we compare it to our old bass, it's a little brighter, a little more attack, really cuts through the mix. The only other thing to really cover on this is where to set the sub fader. And that is going to be up to you. My suggestion is put headphones on and just work with it. If you like to preview mixes in your car, set it where you think it sounds good in headphones and then go listen to it in the car. If it's too much, just turn it down. If it's not enough, turn it up. Same thing. Do a bounce, listen to it in the car. Or wherever your references are. You probably have more than one. So there you go. Full disclosure, I did not make this up. I came upon this technique in a video by Jordan from Hardcore Mix Studio. I don't have any affiliation with him. I just really enjoy his videos. He has a plugin company called Black Salt Audio, and they make a plugin that does this. Again, no affiliation. I do not use that plugin. I do use one of his other plugins called BSA Clipper, but not the bass one. Lately, I've been doing bass like this. So you can try it if you want. All the plugins you need are free, and they're linked down in the description. So with that, I really hope you go stream Time for War. And I really hope you do some or all of what's on the screen right now. In either case, I'd appreciate it. And thanks for watching. And hopefully I'll see you next time.